Seahawks fans, wherever you may be, thanks for listening to the show. Join your hosts, Bill Alvstad and Keith Myers, as we talk Seahawks football. Seahawks fans, welcome back to another episode of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down with co-host Keith Myers here to talk Seahawks football. Got a kind of a recap show for you about the exciting win in Chicago, Keith. The drama, all of the big plays, the offense was churning. It was amazing to see. Everyone was glued to their TV. It was must-watch TV, Keith. How you doing?
It was much snooze TV. 6-3. Seattle wins, keeps their season alive for a few more days. Maybe a whole nother week. Depending on if Arizona can upset the Rams. But honestly, if this is the week that Seattle gets eliminated from the playoffs, they deserve it. That was pathetic. And that may sound harsh for coming after a win, but I'm sorry. You're not going to get a lot of...
The only good part about that game, Keith, was that it didn't go to overtime.
Oh, God. If the Bears had kicked that field goal at the end, I might have just passed out on the floor and
it was already so painful to watch. It's great now. Hats off.
It probably would have ended in a tie.
We'll talk about the defense a lot in this game, but
I can't imagine if they kick that field goal and they make it. I can't imagine that game ending in anything other than a tie. Can you?
It seems, yeah. It was, yeah. I don't even know what to say. It's one of those games where you just look at it and you end it and you're like, it would have been tragic if we would have found a way to lose that game. But the actual winning of the game felt just short of tragic. Like it was just one of those deals, right? And it's like it would be tragic to put this offense back on the field again this season after that. But here we are.
They still have to play another game next week.
They still have to play, and it could be for all the, it could be to get into the playoffs, could be for first place, could be for the third seed in the NFC. I mean, hats off to Mike McDonald. Figured out a way to have a winning season with a very, very limited offense. And he did it by turning the defense around halfway through the season, and some great play calls down the stretch, including the one last night on the 9-0 blitz that he called. Masterful play call at the end of the game there to make sure that it was going to be either a do or die situation. They were either going to get that done, get to the quarterback, affect the play, or it was going to be for a touchdown or a first down, and they were going to win, tie the game or whatever. And so it worked out. Okay, Keith. So this game painfully reminded me of that Cleveland game way back. So I'm thinking like 2010, 2009, somewhere in there, where Cleveland
lost
we traveled to Cleveland, right? And okay, so 6-3, same score. We lost to Cleveland on the most painfully inept offensive performance that we've seen the Seahawks play, I think, in franchise history, right?
I think so. That was 2011 because it was Tavares Jackson as the quarterback, wasn't it?
It's one of those ones where you kind of put it out of your mind.
You try really hard to forget about it because
I'm not sure, but I remember the general sense, and it was Cleveland.
It was definitely Cleveland. Yeah.
And it was just one of those, this is like that. This is one of those things where you show up and I thought first quarter, okay, we're running the ball. We're running effectively. This is going to be one of those games where we could put up 200 yards rushing and just kind of by attrition, keep their offense off the field. We just kind of keep running the ball all game and score, 20 points. And we kind of win this thing pretty handily. And it just turned away from that. And then the running stalled a little bit. Geno Smith had one of his worst performances, I thought, at managing the game, at being able to convert third downs just didn't do it. Like things were falling short. I realized that it was raining. There were some mitigating factors. Gino had an injury. Don't know exactly how that came into play as far as the limits that maybe the offense was put around him for the game. But with all that said,
He
he threw short. That
he played with that
completion to
same
DK
injury
Metcalf.
last week.
Yeah, it's true, but who knows? The DK Metcalf reception, which was really kind of the play of the game ish, other than the 2 field goals kicked by Jason Myers, was was picked up like 1 inch off the turf.
Yeah, it was a
And
fantastic
it was a
catch.
fantastic catch, really. And then DK had the penalty thing, which was stupid again. It was just a hard game to watch. But the defense, Keith. So I would say 90% of this show is going to be talking about the defense, because the offense is what it was. We won the game. We scored enough points to win. But the only reason we scored enough points to win is because our defense didn't allow a touchdown for like the second or third time in the last 5 games.
Yeah.
And held them to 3 points.
Well, if we're going to, before we put a bow on the offensive performance, we need to put it in the context that the Bears are one of the worst defensive teams in the NFL. They're genuinely just awful on the defensive side of the ball. And the Seahawks managed to put up 6 points.
It was the worst offensive performances against Chicago all season.
Yeah.
Conversely,
and
Cleveland or not Cleveland, the Bears offense is just as bad, and we managed to hold the Bears to a season low across the board on all their totals as well.
Yeah.
So hats off to the defense.
So Gino 17 of 23 sounds okay. 160 yards is not gonna get it done. But the key there was that it ended up being 2.8 air yards per attempt. Meaning that
it was all close to the line of scrimmage.
Everything was close to or behind the line of scrimmage. Nothing was down the field except for the one pass to Metcalf. It was just screen, bubble screen. No attempt to do anything that was actually going to generate yards and points. And it wasn't that the play calls weren't there to do it. I mean, this was not a well-called game by any means by Ryan Grubb. But you just go back, the last offensive play that they had, 3rd and 6, and Gino swings the ball out to Charbonnet for I think a 1-yard loss. He had JSN wide open in the middle of the field. There was nobody within 15 yards in any direction.
And you could say this about 6 or 7 plays in the game, really.
Yeah. There were guys.
Here's the deal.
They were open. They were there. Just throw the damn ball.
Here's the deal, and I don't have any medical knowledge about anything that I'm going to say, but it seems to be that this is what it looks like when a player loses his legs. This is the kind of performance you see out of a quarterback. And so whether it's Gino's ability to scramble, to keep plays alive, to push the ball down the field, or just the inability to step into a throw or push off on a back leg to get anything behind any throws, this is kind of what it looked like to me. So I'm questioning a little bit about his injury, like what's going on there, and is it serious? Is it one of those things that heals itself and in a couple of weeks and they just kind of threw him out there because they don't have any other alternative and the season's on the line and you put your best player out there? But it looked to me like Gino doesn't have anything in his legs.
I don't know. I get that. Like there was a play where it looked like he could have easily ran for the first down. He decided to throw a really poorly placed pass for an incompletion instead.
Behind the player. Yeah.
Yeah. It was behind JSN again. And like either a good pass or him running could have got a first down. Instead it's 4th and they punt.
And even on his biggest scramble of the day, he decided to slide 10 yards early.
Yeah. And so you look at that and you could see him running was hard. I'm like, okay, so don't run the ball. default yourself into being a pocket passer and, um, throw the ball. That's what you're paid to do. And if you can't do that, then get your back up in there because that was just ugly. And he
Mhm.
had time on a lot of those plays. He had decent protection. The offensive line did not play poorly. That you just honestly, that might have been the worst Geno Smith game we've seen from him since coming to Seattle.
I agree.
And
And that's to me, that's something's, I mean, it was raining a little bit. Now I get it. He's from Seattle. He's expected to play in the rain. He does play in the rain. But
it's
that I think
never affected him in the
impacted,
past. So
it impacted his ball. Or it's his legs because those passes were off. Like nothing was easy for Seattle. They couldn't convert. I don't know what the stats are in conversion, but we ended up with 265 total yards. We held them though. I want to start talking about our defense a little bit because we held Caleb Williams to 76 yards passing in this game when they had to pass like all the time. Like that was
mhm.
their game. They couldn't really run the ball, although they were effective for 103 yards. They had averaged 3.1 yards per play. At least we got our average up to 5.2 because of our running. Um, and Charbonnet and Kenny McIntosh looked pretty decent at times running the ball. So
Especially
that was a positive for me.
in the first quarter, it looked outstanding. It looked unstoppable,
Yes.
and then they kind of just stopped trying to run the ball. And when they did, it seemed half-assed, and they didn't go anywhere. So,
Right. Right. We only ended up with 12 first downs in this game, 5 for 13 on third down conversions, 51 total plays, which is really pretty low. 3 sacks allowed, punted the ball 6 times. It's even a little worse for Chicago. And
it
they
was
have a much
significantly
worse
worse.
offense, even though ours is trying to compete with Chicago for much worse.
Mhm.
The cool thing about this game, okay, so let's go to the defense. This was the third game this season where McDonald defense held for no touchdowns and 6 or fewer points
Yeah, it's
to win.
crazy.
So it was all
That's
on the defense. The defense
another
had 7 sacks.
yeah.
Leo Williams
Um,
played out of his mind again. 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 4 quarterback hits. Reed had a great game. Nuwasu had a sack. Derek
they had a
Hall
pass
had a
knocked
sack.
down. Um, Nuwasu almost had 2 pick sixes. On those plays where um, you saw Caleb Williams swing it out to a wide receiver right away, and
Yes,
Nuwasu had it read and just couldn't get there. One of them he just missed, and it went, and then Trey Brown actually made a fantastic play
yes.
to work through a block and make a tackle. And on the other one, he got a
It was
hand
good
on
to
it, and
see
he
that.
just needed a little bit more of a hand on the ball, and then he's tipping it to himself and taking it down the sideline into the end zone. But Nuasa was very close to having a couple of pick sixes. Just, I mean, that is watching film and knowing tendencies and making your reads like that. He was
Hmm.
so close on those. That was fun to see because he's been battling back from injury, and you can see the explosiveness that he had pre-injury 2 years ago. Just wasn't quite there. And so for him to be able to start making plays like that is good to
And
see
he had
for
a
him.
sack too.
Yeah, he did.
And Devin Witherspoon had a sack. He forced Caleb Williams out of bounds behind the line of scrimmage, but nonetheless, it's a sack. So I wanted to get back to Williams too. He's having one of his best seasons. He calls it his best season just because of an impact ability on the game. But statistically, he's got 9 sacks, 26 quarterback hits, which is second most in his career. He's just having a great season. Jaron Reed played so well in this game. The coach gave him the ball, game ball, for affecting the game on the interior, kind of making Leo Williams happen, if you will.
Hmm.
And
Reed had
it
a
was,
fantastic game. Actually,
yeah,
Byron Murphy had a great game on the inside too, in much the same way that Jaron Reed did, and just was there. He was active. He was disruptive. I liked what we saw from the interior of the defensive line quite a bit. Now, part of that is the team you're playing against, and they made Jake Curran look foolish a number of times, which those of us that remember watching him when he was in Seattle know that happens. He's just not athletically all that gifted, and so you can make him look foolish. But um, yeah, they dominated that
And they should
interior,
have.
and that was nice.
They
Yeah.
should have. This was a game that was set up for them to be able to kind of dominate. They held the Bears to 179 total yards and 11 first downs. That's about 100 yards less than we had, and our offense looked pathetic.
Hmm.
So let's put that in perspective. They didn't have a
Yards.
completed single pass in that game beyond 6 yards until the last drive of
Hmm.
regulation.
And even
Um,
then, it was a desperation heave.
yeah, they were one
Um,
for nine on pass plays over 10 yards in
yeah,
this game.
I mean, and it really was. It was a desperation heave.
Yes.
And in order to get, yeah, they the Bears averaged 2.2 yards per play.
Yeah. It's a bad offense. I worry about the kid, Caleb Williams. Nothing against him at all. I wish him success, but man, they need to find an offensive head coach, offensive play caller, surround him with some
Yeah.
players because
At this
you
point, it looks
ruin a
like they're
kid
going to
like
David
that.
Carr him.
Yeah, he's got 60 plus sacks, in the season, and and they can't move the ball. It's
Yeah.
tough to watch, and psychologically, you can really do some damage there.
Well, that's what I meant. That's what I meant by David Carr. I don't know if you guys, if the listeners all remember, but Derek Carr's older brother, David, was a first overall pick of the draft and got sacked into oblivion by the expansion Houston Texans. And the guy with a lot of talent um, became so gun shy at everything. Like he was, um, they broke him. And yeah, I mean, Caleb Williams is a fantastic talent. Like a kid can be really good, but talk about getting drafted into the wrong team. Like that, the Bears right now could break him, and that would be so unfortunate for fans of just of the NFL because this kid could be good
Mhm.
if they let him.
So Seattle won its sixth out of seven road games this season. Good
Hmm.
road team, or just happens to be good on the road facing the teams that they faced. What do you think about Mike McDonald's decision to blitz on the last play of the game to kind of
Oh, I
seal
love
that
it.
thing?
You've got a quarterback who um, everything sped up for him. Nothing slowed down. And the more they blitzed him, the more jittery he got. So yeah, go out and get after him. You either get there, affect the play, um, either get a sack or force an incompletion, and you're done. You get off the field and you win. And if you don't, they probably kick a field goal and you go to overtime and tie. Um, so I don't mind it at all. I think when you're playing against young quarterbacks like that, you blitz the hell out of them. You might as well. Um, the it's old school, but basically, you go back Bill Parcells era, and you blitz inexperienced quarterbacks and you cover against experienced quarterbacks, um, and yeah, blitz him. I mean, until they show they can do something against it, why would you stop?
Yeah. I know the defense really loved this call at this particular time. They apparently had practiced this particular blitz for a couple of weeks. They had not called it in a game. It was called a 9-0 jailbreak blitz, which meant that there were 9 people at the line of scrimmage showing blitz prior to the snap, and 2 outside corners, and that was it. They weren't going to cover the middle of the field. Caleb Williams doesn't know where it's going to come from. They drop 2 linemen back into coverage,
Hmm.
short coverage in the middle, and they send 6, 7, and Kobe Bryant gets there untouched. So essentially forces that pass out quickly. Caleb Williams is falling backwards, just trying to launch it, gets hit simultaneously. That ball kind of wobbles out, and Reek Woolen seals the victory with the interception.
Yep.
So that was amazing. Loved that.
Yeah. I mean, you look at that play and you're as a um, as a defensive coordinator or really as a fan, what you're scared of is the ball gets out of his hands in a quick slant because there's nothing in the middle of the field except for a couple of linemen. And if the big uglies can't get a hand up there or whatever, that play could go for a long gain.
Mm-hmm.
But it was enough. If they didn't have that play call in, they didn't have that route being run. What is he going to do? And you're getting a guy through. You've got more blitzers than they have blockers. And you're right. Caleb Williams doesn't know where it's coming from. The linemen don't know where it's coming from. You never expect two defensive linemen to be the guys dropping back. And so, yeah, he puts his foot back, back foot down and tries to lob it out there because it's his only option.
Yeah. Only option. So, okay. So here we are. We've reached 9 wins on the season against 7 losses currently. They can get to 10. It's already a winning season for Mike Macdonald.
Mike Macdonald has never coached a losing season.
Yay.
He's only coached one season. But you word it that way, it sounds really impressive, doesn't it?
He's he did the job. I mean, I hand it to him, and we'll talk about a lot of it in the off season, but given the way things come together and the circumstances and the roster and just kind of being handed the keys with a kind of a small turnover. And then if you take a look at the free agent situation that we had this year, and you go down the list of free agents, and they're all did not work. Like none of them worked out. So you kind of get a shorthand there. Some of the offensive, the draft picks fell short a little bit, especially the Christian Haynes pick so far.
One of them fell short. The rest of them it was a pretty good draft.
Yeah. Well, DJ James, I think, was a waste of a pick, but
I could have told you that was a waste of a pick the moment they took him.
So here we are. We've got the Los Angeles Rams versus the Arizona Cardinals game on Saturday night. It's the final game of the 3-game package the NFL put together for Saturday. Basically, what it boils down to is Arizona needs to beat the Rams for the Seahawks to be able to get into the playoffs. Now, there are scenarios around that, but or would have been around if we would have lost, and we could have still gotten in if the Cardinals had beaten the Rams. Now it just comes down to, I think the Cardinals have to win, and if the Rams win, then it's very complicated. It requires 6 or 7 different wins by different teams.
We know we need the Jets to upset Buffalo. And a couple other things like that, because you need teams that Seattle beat, like the Jets, to have a slightly better record in order for it to work out for the Seahawks to win all the tiebreakers. But basically, there's a bunch of things that have to happen, and a lot of them are equally as unlikely as the Jets beating Buffalo. They need Arizona to win.
Yes.
They need to,
which is entirely possible. Arizona's got a decent roster
game and a good coach too. I like what Gannon's done with that team this year.
But he's no Sean McVay, at least at this point in his career. So you're playing against a superior coach, a better roster with some motivation there to take the division and win. It's a win or go home scenario for the Rams. Well, not a go home, but it makes that last game against Seattle for all the marbles. And you might as well go get it.
I love the idea that Arizona wins that game and forces a winner take all Week 17 matchup between the Rams and Seattle.
I love that. I do like that scenario. That's a great deal. Seattle plays well on the road. We lost a ridiculous loss in overtime against them earlier in the season. It'd be a revenge game. It'd be all the things you kind of love about football. Going into that game on the worst a possible offensive performance the week prior. But the good news is we'd have a little bit of extra time to prepare. So it would be interesting. It would be interesting to me. I would love to be able to get that game and have a playoff game under Mike McDonald just for the experience, and see if there's anything we can do in the playoffs against probably Green Bay.
Oh, yay. Let's get a rematch of that game.
But it would be at home. It would be a rematch
was at home
at
last
home.
time.
I know,
wasn't
but
it?
it would be in the playoffs, though, man. Playoff atmosphere, Seahawks at home game. I mean, how long has it been since we've had one of those?
I don't know. The Seahawks are 3-6 at home this year.
Yeah.
Those 7 losses that they've got, 6 of them were at home. That's just, I don't know. What the hell? How do you lose? How do you lose twice as many games as you win at home and still are in contention for a playoff spot? That's just crazy to me.
Yeah. So, okay. So what's next, man? Got to go watch this game on Saturday. I'm going to be out and about Saturday evening. And so I'm going to have to check in on my phone and find out the final score. But, if Arizona wins, next week's going to be pretty exciting to talk about that final matchup.
Yeah.
If they lose and the Rams win, it's likely over, and we'll just have to let the rest of the league play out there. But I would say no matter what happens at this point, it's been a successful season on a number of different levels, even on the offense, because we found out what doesn't work and what works and what we can keep and
what doesn't work.
Right. Well, and that's just as valuable sometimes. That's just as valuable to me, is having that information in hand prior to the off season, so you can really make some decisions and some key moves.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean there's that. The key for this year to me coming in was we needed to see the defense start to do what Mike McDonald does with defenses. And we saw that. This defense has been outstanding the last 8 weeks. And that was the key development. It was disappointing just how bad the offense has been, and it's getting worse. It's not getting better. And so I think
Walker's out now for the year, basically.
Yeah, one more game. Not that they've ever used him in any adequate way, so whatever. I don't know. I just like I said, the offense just keeps getting worse, and it leaves me with a lot of concern going into the offseason and going into next year, because the idea was that you'd start to see things come together and you'd start to see, okay, maybe it didn't work all the time, but you started to get an idea of what this offense was going to look like and form an identity and all of that, and none of that's gone right.
Does it make it easier in your mind to clean house and start over? New quarterback, new a couple new wide receivers, the change in the offensive coordinator, in the offensive line coach, a couple of new offensive linemen, all that kind of stuff. I mean, that big of a change where you're changing 6 starters.
No. Get a competent coordinator in there, improve the line, get a starter or two on the interior of the line, get some competent play there. Get another weapon, another receiver. You've got the makings of an offense. Gino had a terrible game this game, but we've seen him play this year, last year, the year before. The guy can play. And you're not in a position to get a quarterback. So where are you going to get one? are the Vikings going to sign Sam Darnold to a long-term deal and be open to trading J.J. McCarthy? If that's the case, okay, maybe you do that and let Geno walk. But other than, I don't see a path to a quarterback. So you kind of have to run everything back, and just hope that you can get more out of him and the offense by making the blocking better, and then
and a coordinator,
and a coordinator that go from there. I mean, and then I would give him another wide receiver because the team's gotten an unfortunately small amount of production from Tyler Lockett this year, simply, with his age and everything. And then guys like Jake Bobo just haven't continued to develop into becoming guys you can count on to make plays and be productive. So I think they're in need of a wide receiver, but
they've just literally shut down like a guy like Derek Young too. Not even really giving him a chance in this offense. It's disappointing.
yeah, true. But at the same time, like this is multiple coaching staffs that have not been able to get much out of him. So maybe it's just a case of, his value is not to the offense, it's to special teams.
All right, let's get out of here. Good recap. Terrible offensive game. Throw that part out. Keep the defensive part. It was amazing. Enjoyed that aspect of this game. Yeah, let's get a Cardinals win. Let's all root for Kyler Murray for one day, and let's wake up on Sunday and start to preview the end matchup against the Rams. I'd love that. Okay, so let's get out here. Find Keith on Blue Sky at Myers NFL. You can find me at Blue Sky at NW Seahawk. I'm still on X, same call sign there. The show is Seahawks Playbook Podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform, YouTube channel. Hit subscribe. That would be awesome. So until next time, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Seahawks Playbook Podcast listeners, thanks for joining us for another edition of the show. You can find us on Twitter. Bill is at NW Seahawk, Keith is at Myers NFL, and the show is at Hawks Playbook. You can listen and subscribe to the show at SeahawksPlaybook.com.